Hey guys, welcome back to the Lou Perez Podcast. My name is Lou Perez. If you'd like to support my work, please head over to thelouperez.locals.com and join the Lou Perez community. You'll get to listen to my podcasts and watch my sketch comedy videos before I release them to the rest of the world. You'll also have access to exclusive content for members only. And if you're looking for another way you can support me, you can do so by supporting my sponsors. Black Organic Cold Brew. Just head over to www.blvckbrew.com and use promo code LOU for free shipping. And if you're into CBD products, please check out Paloma Verde CBD. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and use promo code LOU for 25% off purchases over $75. All right, here we go. Oh, God, I look disgusting. Look how big my head is. Okay. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Lou Perez Podcast. I'm your host, Lou Perez, and I'm very happy to be joined by Gret Glyer. And Gret is the CEO of DonorSee. And right off the bat, Gret, I feel like I mispronounced your last name, and I'm sorry about that.
Glyer? Glyer is fine. I get Guyler a lot, but Glyer is the right one.
It is. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, where's Glyer from?
Well, so I'm half Ecuadorian, but Glyer is on my father's side, and it's some European combination of things. But yeah, I don't know any others.
Yeah, it sounds like an ancient sort of trade. Like,
Does,
you got to go to the Glyer.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, you can't feel this half of your body. You got to go see the Glyer. He'll be able to help you out on that. Yeah, I didn't know you were half Ecuadorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mom emigrated from Ecuador when she was like 20.
Okay.
Met my dad, and yeah, they've been married for about 30-something years at this point, and I'm the product of them. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you have any siblings or?
I have a younger sister. Her name is Gizan, Gizan, and yeah, just the two of us.
Okay, now we're about to go off the rails because now you've just expressed
some unique names,
some really interesting
yeah.
names. Gizan, is that a derivation of Jesus or Jesus?
No, actually, because Gret, and then my dad's name is Grid, Grid. So the concept is G names that are kind of unique, and I think part of the concept was like they can't be made into nicknames, so they kind of keep them short.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have a daughter named Galilee, like the Sea of Galilee.
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah, thank you. And I have another one on the way in January 23rd, so very soon. Could be any day. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Very soon, yeah.
We are recording this. I record these, sometimes a week or two out. We're recording this on January 7th. So the fact that you're doing this, wow.
That speaks, yeah.
You obviously like me a lot, and you don't have any good reason to like me to be willing to do this. But if anything happens, if you gotta head out,
yeah, I've got my phone on me, so yeah, no, we'll be good. I think we'll be fine. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, baby's due January 23rd. My wife and I, we don't share the name of the baby until not even with like family or anything until the baby's born. But it'll be a G name. I can share that.
Yeah, with my wife and I. So we have two.
Mm-hmm.
My newborn was born in October. It was interesting. My first son was born the day before my mother-in-law's birthday, and then the new son was born the day before my mother's birthday.
Okay.
So we're keeping.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And we kept.
They must be close together.
Yeah. Well, how was it? 19. I think it was 19 months.
19 months apart. Yeah. So that's so you can give me some advice because I think they're going to be 17 months apart.
Oh wow. Yeah. It's well, for one, it's definitely a lot of work. Them being that close, a lot of diapers. But when it came to revealing the names, we didn't reveal it to anybody. The first people to hear it were the nursing staff.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah. So we that was cool.
What was your rationale for that?
I think it might have been like almost like superstitious in a way, where it's sort of like we are entrusting you with these lives.
Yeah.
And therefore you are entitled to like almost this secret information. Like this will somehow bring us all closer. And I don't know how things are normal, like in pre-COVID times. I never had a baby. So I didn't know what masking was like back then. Like if you actually like saw the face of a nurse or your doctor, but nowadays, like you don't, so it's, and the last, my second child, he was a day after his due date, but like my wife could have given birth on the car ride over. Like it was that
fast.
It was that close. And there was a nurse in particular named Jeannie. And she was just incredibly sweet. Like when you meet someone like Jeannie, it's like, oh, you are what a nurse should be. Like you are. This is your vocation.
It just feels right.
Yeah, you were born to do this. And there was a point where my wife was sitting on the bedding or whatever you want to call it, and we're facing each other. I'm holding her, and then Jeannie's behind us, holding both of us. And it was a very, very intimate, setting.
I know exactly. Important. And someone that you don't know very well, but you're just in this crazy situation with each other. Because with us, Galilee, like my family didn't even know the name, but as soon as the baby was born, the midwife, so we did a home birth actually. Especially because in part because of COVID, in part because we just wanted, and my wife wanted to. But when the baby was born, the midwife was like, needed to write the name down. So we said, oh, her name is Galilee, and Galilee is a sea in the Middle East, and Galilee was born. It was like a water birth. Like we had a tub in our house, and so the midwife said something about like, oh, like the Sea of Galilee, like that was a water baby. Yeah. Yeah. But it was so interesting, like being in that situation with someone, and like very, very intimate. I mean, way more intimate for my wife, obviously, than me, but still very intimate. So
yeah. Well, I think this kind of relates to what you do, in that you're a stranger who ends up being very intimate in the lives of others, especially those in need. And that's where we come to DonorSee. And maybe you could just tell the world what DonorSee is. And
definitely, yeah, DonorSee is a place where donors can see where their money goes when they donate. We're really focused on building relationships between donors and the people that they're helping. So anyone can, like right now, anyone can go to DonorSee.com. You can sort through hundreds of projects. Each of these projects are ways to help people in really big ways. And then what's unique about us is you could donate to a girl in India who might need hearing aids, or you can donate to a widow in Malawi who might need a roof for her house. But these are locally sourced, on the ground, vetted projects. You can donate. You can pick which project you want to donate to. And usually it's a small donation. You can donate $20 or $50. You make a big difference in that person's life. And then you'll get a video update. So you'll get a video of the widow, like watching the house get put on, the roof get put on her house, or the girl in India who needs hearing aids, you'll get a video of her hearing for the first time. And then we create these connections between the donor and the person that they're helping.
Yeah, a while back, when I first joined DonorSee and was giving, I described it as if you're ever drunk and black out,
right? I remember this. Yeah.
And you wake up and you've given like all this money to all these different causes on DonorSee, like you will never regret those drinks that you had.
Yeah, I know. It's like an app that's like, if you accidentally use it, it turns out to be a good thing, as opposed to like if social media, you're like drunk texting.
Yeah.
That's negative consequences for that.
So, some years before I came across you guys, a buddy of mine, we went to Nepal.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so we spent we're 2 weeks apart. We're both born in February, so we went to celebrate our 33rd birthdays in Nepal. Which seems it was a place where like two guys from Queens, you would never think like, oh yeah, these guys are going to go party in Nepal.
I'm curious what the rationale was for like picking that place.
I'm very much the type where if somebody's going to do all the organizing, I'm happy.
You're in.
Yeah. So anytime my wife and I go away, it's like, you organize it, I'll pick up the dinner tab.
Okay.
So it was a similar thing. My friend Rob, we've been friends since high school, and this was sort of in this is an idea that he had, and for him, I think it was more of, rather than just seeing like this exotic locale or a place that you probably would never go to. It was more of like a spiritual thing for him. Like, and we had a wonderful time. It was incredibly, bonding experience, and then meeting the Nepalese people, or they're just
that's a good way to do that.
Nepali.
Yeah, that's a good way to do that. I think when you're like, especially around that age, and you're trying to figure out, like, you're trying to get a little bit more perspective in life, and trying to also like figure out some things about yourself, just to take yourself like out of your context, go to a completely like foreign context, and meet like really wonderful people who grew up in a very different situation than you. It's like a really good way to do that kind of thing. Very good for your friend to do that. Not many people do that.
Yeah, and they were incredibly sweet people. It was great. It was funny though, preparing for it. When we think of Nepal, we think of like Mount Everest. So we like, got like new clothes if we were going to be, hiking and stuff like that. And it turns out like, no, like you're not at that high of an altitude. So we're walking around basically looking like CIA. Just sort of like walking around here, like, who are these Americans?
That's, I mean, so that's just like the level of, like, for me, when I first went to Malawi, I remember there was another guy who I was like getting on the plane with, and we were both, we had just met, but we were going to the same destination, leaving from the same airport. I leaned over to him as we were getting on the plane, and I was like, dude, I can't believe I just took my last hot shower for a year this morning, because I was going for a year. I was like, I can't believe I just took my last hot shower. In my mind, I'm like, there's no hot water in Africa. It's like just the level of naivety was pretty interesting.
So we went, we spent, I think, like 10 days there, and then we came back to the States, and I think it might have been like maybe a month or two, or maybe 2 months, where Nepal suffered just an unspeakable earthquake. Completely like destroyed them. And immediately you start remembering all the places that you went to that are no longer there. My friend has a tattoo of one of the temples that's not there anymore.
That's
this
crazy.
is there for thousands of years. He gets a tattoo, and now it's no longer there.
Wow.
And when I was there, we went into this one shop where this guy was a knife smith, or maybe a Glyer. I don't know what to call it. He could have been a Glyer.
People.
And they make this. I think that's they call it Gurkha. There's like the Gurkha soldiers, and this type of knife, and it's a really wicked, scary looking knife.
That's actually the name of my son, Gurkha. That's what we're gonna call him.
There we go.
You just named him.
You guys hear it first. I have to wait before I release this then. So he's born. But my dad's a butcher, so growing up, he would always bring home like these interesting knives and stuff. So I decided I want to get him a knife. So I bought my dad a knife. We brought it back to the U.S. My dad was blown away by this, and so when the earthquake happened, I was like, "Who do I have contact with at Nepal?" Well, I have the receipt of this man's store. Let me, reach out by email, see if there's a way, we could help. Turns out his daughter is studying in the U.S., and what ensues is this really, this really great relationship connection where, I met this man who was an incredible knife maker. And then his daughter connected me, and they were able to say, it's like, oh, this is what we need. We need money for a school.
Yeah.
So my dad and I were able to, put some money together, send it to the school. And then later they sent back pictures of what this school now looks like. And, this is like I said, a couple of years before I found you guys, and something like just that simple is just, it's just so powerful. And I think so important, because you want to see where your money's going, that the good that it's doing, and you guys, do that. I've been doing that for a few years now.
Yeah, no, it's really important. I think there's like this kind of tragic thing that's happened where, because there's the standard is that there's no, the standard interaction when you give to charity is you just give, and you really just get like a thank you email or a tax receipt, and then like a few months later they'll send you like more solicitation for more money, and that's kind of standard way that it works, and it really disconnects people from the opportunity to do good in the world, and it makes people really skeptical, and like understandably so. It's like something I actually genuinely understand, like why people are kind of like, why should I give my money? You don't like, I don't know exactly how it's going to help. I don't know what it's going to do. And there's like a lot of great charities out there, and there's a lot of bad charities out there, and there's no way to distinguish between them because it's the same. Like, you just give on a donation page and then that's it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why we're really passionate about what we're doing. And it seems like a lot of other people are, passionate too, and excited to help us grow, because we're really trying to solve this problem. Because there's like a lot of opportunity to do awesome, really good stuff. Like you and your dad built a school, and helped contribute to that. And now there's people who are benefiting hugely in that community from it. And that will have ripple effects that will last for generations. And that's a really cool thing that happened. And I think more of that stuff should happen. And for us, like, the key to that is for just people to see. I think people are generous. They just want to trust and believe that's going to actually make a difference.
Yeah, and I was living in Los Angeles at the time. So when this happened, one of the things that I thought was, okay, let me see if I can put on some benefit shows, to do this. And Mike Still was an awesome actor, great improviser. He was the artistic director at the UCB Theater, and I reached out to Mike, and Mike helped me put together a show, and he gave me the space and the lineup, and it was and it was great. I think that money all went to Red Cross, if I'm not mistaken.
That's my favorite. Yeah.
I bring that up because I wanted to see what happens. I want to see the steam rise from your head. But talk about a completely different experience where everybody involved, our hearts were in the right place, and the people who gave money, their money was in the right place. But we have no idea what happened with that money. There was no connection there whatsoever. And I hear these nightmare stories about, the Red Cross and,
so I'll say something about that. So, there was a period of time in my life where I was extremely critical I was very vocal about my critiques about what you could call like big charity. Like, there's a lot of charities out there that do a lot of donation volume on the annual basis. They do maybe $1 billion a year. There's a lot of these like really big charities that are processing a lot of donations, and with not much accountability, and it feeds a lot of the skepticism. So anyways, there was a period of time where I was very vocal about my kind of critiques around this. And I got to a place, so I did that for a while, and actually like generated a good bit of attention. People, it seemed to like really resonate with people. It created like a very felt need there. Eventually, I'll be honest with you, I kind of had this realization that, it's really easy to critique things, and it's very hard to build things that are great and that people want to use and that are better. And so I had this moment at some point where I realized, for all the critiquing I'm doing, that's fine, but I'd rather take all of that energy and just pour it into creating like a really amazing experience with DonorSee. And so I don't know when exactly that shift happened, but ever since I kind of just decided to make that transition, I don't know. I'll just say that we've grown a lot. We have a lot more staff now, and we have a lot more, we're processing a lot more donations, a lot more successful projects, a lot more video follow-ups, all that stuff. And I think a direct part of that was just because I kind of said like, I think that there's a lot that's broken with the charity industry, and I can just point fingers all the time. I can spend my time pointing fingers, or I can just build something better. And then that's what we've been trying to do for the last few years.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me sort of on social media, whenever like a billionaire would give like, $100 million to this thing. And then you'd have, somebody come up on, on social media like, oh, that's like 25 cents.
That's right.
It's like, okay, but that's $100 million. That's, that's going somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think you're so right, with the, with that idea, you can definitely get caught up in just pointing fingers and
it's pretty effective. I mean, people like to rally around the person who's like causing a scene and all that stuff. It was effective in terms of generating awareness, but it didn't actually, like, I'm really passionate. Our organization is really focused on creating a very amazing experience. Every time someone donates, we just want them to have an awesome experience. And we want to scale that experience and have it, have millions of people donating on a monthly basis who are just having like an awesome time and seeing the good that they're doing. And that's hard to do. It's hard to build that, and it's hard to create that world and that better place. But it's it's a lot easier to do that if you don't distract yourself with some of these other things, which I was doing for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess when it comes to Malawi, specifically, I'd never heard of it before. I'm very embarrassed. I'm very embarrassed.
You shouldn't be, because most people haven't heard. I hadn't heard of it until like a month before I moved there, so it's pretty common.
I thought it's like you didn't hear of it until you woke up one day and you're
I was just there.
Oh man, and I can't take any warm showers.
That's right.
Yeah. So how did that? Okay, so you didn't hear about it until a month before you went there.
Yeah.
So let's take us back. When was that? And
so I graduated from college in 2012. I spent a year working in the
oh man,
in the corporate world.
Can I you graduated in 2012? I graduated 2004. And I'm so...
That was my middle school graduation.
Dude,
so
I'm so humbled. The amount of good that you've done
in
the world in your short life compared to me, man. Well, and just to go back, I did some benefit shows for Nepal.
That's big, yeah.
Yeah, I think I raised like $200.
I don't mean to laugh. That's really nice.
That's when you have star power, like Lou Perez. It's like, yeah, guys, come on, it's a really good cause, and people are like, yeah, man, get a different figurehead for that. But okay, so you
really,
so you graduated.
Graduated in 2012, spent a year in the corporate world, and I was just kind of like, I was pretty successful, but like kind of depressed. Like I was like, I don't want to do this for like another 20 years. I can tell, like, if I just continue on this trajectory, I bet you had some moment like that. I just can tell based off like, what you're working on, the stuff that you do, that you had probably like a moment like this where you kind of like, okay, I need to like kind of shake things up. And so that was when I didn't exactly know why, but I was like, I just have to like kind of blow up my life. And so I was looking for opportunities to go overseas and travel. And I looked at a bunch of different things, and nothing was like quite the right fit. Then I was a groomsman in a wedding on July 13th, 2013, or I think it was July 30th, 2013, or something like that. And one of the other groomsmen was like heading to Malawi to be a teacher. We had a quick discussion. He sent me the link to apply, and then I applied to be a math teacher, which was like what they needed. And a month later, I had like quit my job, got all of my shots, and was on a plane with like this guy I just met at the wedding a month before.
Oh wow!
And so the two of us ended up being roommates. Is a really good friend of mine named Woody. And then so I spent a year being a teacher there, and then I spent 2 more years just doing like humanitarian work in Malawi, and then I came back and founded DonorSee.
And where is it in Africa?
So if you know where Madagascar is, it's like inland of Madagascar. It's in Southeast Africa. Africa's really big. That's the other thing people don't usually know. It's like 54 countries, and you can fit like China and the US and Russia like all in it at the same time, and it's really, really big.
Yeah, it comes down. I think it's the globe. The perspective is all messed up when it comes to scale.
Yeah, there's some controversy around that.
The idea of like sort of minimizing Africa as a
on the globe, it looks like Africa is like similar in size to North America, but they're not even close.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't get into that, but it is a thing.
Yeah. So you taught math. What was it like teaching math?
Well, so that was the thing. So I was under the impression I was going to be like living in a grass thatched hut, and no, I was like so ignorant. Heading over there. But I was teaching pre-calculus and algebra 2 at an international school. There was like an Olympic-sized swimming pool on campus and pretty nice facilities, all things considered. So it was like I was living on this like compound, like a 1 mile square radius compound with a bunch of nice facilities, and I lived with other Americans. There were like 30 other Americans that lived in this compound and were teachers too, or about my age. And so on the compound, it was like decently nice, but then you leave the compound, like literally across the street, there's like probably slums that were similar to things you saw in Nepal. And then you go like another 20 minutes out, and you're in rural Africa, like your grass thatch huts, just people living on 30 cents a day, 50 cents a day. Very, very different lives. Just 20 minutes outside of, that place, even, across the street, really.
Mhm. And was it like international? You said international students. So were they like kids from the parents in the
Yeah.
UN and that
So
sort
some
of
of
thing?
them were like missionary kids, and some of them were from the UN or from the embassy, like the U.S. embassy or one of the other countries. And then about half the students were like upper class Malawians or middle class
Mhm.
Malawians. So it was like half Malawian and then half expat kids.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine, Carla, who was a guest on this program, and she grew up in South Africa, and I
Mm,
think and
that's a great place.
her dad worked for, I think, like the State Department, so she was kind of moving all over the place. With like the people that you met in Malawi, like uh what do you think like attracted you to decide like, hey, I want to spend more time here. I want to help these people out more, as opposed to going somewhere else.
Yeah. So I kind of grew up I was a private school kid in high school, and my college tuition was paid for. I graduated from college debt free. I was working this corporate job. I was promoted super quick. And I just kind of had a lot of things pretty easy for me up until that point. And I think the zip code I grew up in was like the second wealthiest zip code in the U.S. So just that was my like normal life. My
Humble
normal
brag,
life
humble
was, yeah,
bragging right now.
exactly. So I just for me, like I remember my I had a Dodge Stratus when I was in high school. Like that was the car I drove a Dodge Stratus.
For
But
those
my
of you who don't know the SNL
yeah,
reference, please go stop the
please go.
record, stop listening right now,
This
and go
that's
watch
more
Will
important
Ferrell.
for sure.
Yeah.
um, but like some of my classmates would drive like a Mercedes. So in my mind, like my high school mind, I was like a poor kid.
Mm,
Even though I was attending private school and all this other stuff. So my conception of that was warped. So then when I landed in Malawi and I'm like literally hanging out with people who are living on 30 cents a day, um, it really challenged just my conception of the entire world, and there was something about that was very powerful. Um, and then I guess on top of that, I think it challenged my perception in so many different ways. I think I was under the impression that, yeah, I knew that there's poor people in the world, but there's like a handful of poor people who live in like really distant, remote corners of the globe. But then, like in Malawi, there's like 15 million people in the country. 5 million of them live in the city, and then 10 million of them live in these like rural villages. So the majority of the country is like living in these rural villages, and that's how
mm,
a lot of sub-Saharan Africa is like. And so I was like, just like the number of people living in these conditions on the same planet as me, like private school Gret, that was like just trippy, you know?
yeah.
And then the layer on top of that is a lot of these people were extremely happy. Like they had really good relationships with their neighbors and their family, and they were very kind. They're super generous. Like they were buying things for me. Like they would
Mm,
buy me like a Coca-Cola or something like that, just to show like that you know, they're just trying to be hospitable. Um, and so they were just like really wonderful, lovely people. So I think that was like there was all that was great. And then on top of that, I think I also like sensed this opportunity where so there was this girl I met who her mom, so she was in the I used to go to this village every Friday, and I'd play soccer with the kids there, and me and some of the other kind of like American teachers would go on Fridays, and so I'd play soccer with the kids and hang out with the people in the village, and it was just like a fun thing on Friday. It would kind of reset my like any problem I thought I had. I would go into the village on Friday, and it would like it would put
mhm.
things in perspective, and so it's a very good. I really kind of missed that. It was a really good thing to be able to do that. But anyways, there was this little girl in the village. Her name was Emily, and she was like 5 years old at the time that I met her. And someone told me her story. Essentially, her dad had run away, and her mom had died because she couldn't afford a $20 trip to the hospital.
Oh.
Um, and you learn about something like that, and it does for me. It didn't sit right with me, and I've like this is crazy. Like I grew up,
Mm,
in my private school world, and now I'm here. It took me like 24 hours to go from DC to here in this village in Malawi, and there's these people who are just tragically poor. and there was something about that I sensed like almost like an opportunity to have an impact or contribute, like whatever I can personally offer. I felt like there was this opportunity here where I could do some good. So I didn't exactly know how that would turn into DonorSee someday, but I just sensed like I should keep. There's something here that I need to pay attention to.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, living on 30 cents a day. What does that look like? What does that mean
Yeah.
for somebody? What time do they wake up? What time, where do they go to work? What do they eat and all that?
Yeah. So I mean, it's like an agrarian lifestyle, and essentially so in Malawi they have 3 seasons. They have the rainy season, the dry season, and the hungry season. Like that's how they divide
wow.
their seasons. And so for them, there's like a period of time where there's like a lot of rain, and then they do farming, and then they harvest it. But like it's like right before the crops get harvested, the crops from the previous year are like running out, and so they're really hungry. So they call that the hungry season. There's a spike in crime during that time of year, and obviously like increase in illness and things like that because people are just their immune systems are compromised. Yeah, it's a just very different world from how a lot of us kind of anyone listening to this podcast is a very different world. I super encourage people to go, visit and so forth. But yeah, so they're farmers, manual labor. A lot of people, they do like piecework. So it's like there'll be a farm nearby, and the person who owns the farm will pay them like a little bit of money so that they can, like, they just work all day, and then they take that back to their family and they share it with their family. And you often have like a lot of kids that they're taking care of. They have a lot of them live in like mud huts, so like kind of a dirt floor, bricks made from mud, and then grass thatched roofs. And so these are the people who are like the poorest of the poor. And then if you're like kind of a wealthier person in the village, you might have like a metallic roof. Those are expensive. You might have like a little bit of cement in your walls. But yes, they're shockingly poor. I mean, that's just like the thing is, I actually took one of my colleagues at DonorSee. I took him to Malawi earlier this year, and so I took him into one of these villages where he was meeting people like this, and he said it took him like 30 minutes to even comprehend what he was seeing.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I felt like I was back in the year like 700. Like I just didn't even know. Like I knew that intellectually it exists, but you don't really appreciate it until you're right there, like looking into someone's eyes who just their life was so different than yours, and like trying to comprehend that it's an experience.
Yeah. One thing that's hard to fathom, especially for somebody like a Westerner, is that kind of life. But then what's also hard to fathom is that at no time in human history has there been less of that than now, so it's like, so there's extreme poverty has been, reduced considerably.
Yeah.
And yet you still have these these
it used to be the norm. Like if you look at graphs
right.
from like 200 years ago, it was like 90% of the world was in extreme poverty. And then if you look at graphs today, it's like 10% of the world is in extreme poverty. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's been it's been pretty crazy. The last 200 years have been very, very good for broader humanity.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? I don't know. It's probably a big question, but sort of like what's the missing piece to really help the people in Malawi advance to move beyond where they are now?
It's quite a big question. There's a lot of things that are there's a lot of compounding factors. So there's all sorts of things that make it challenging. So for example, Malawi's education system is could use improvement. But then let's say that you just
better math teachers. They need better math teachers.
Exactly.
Gret.
The math teachers are getting I can speak to the level of improvement needed there. But I mean, so like I was at this private school, but the government-run schools there you can't comprehend. Like there were kids, like the norm is like there's too many kids that fit in the government school buildings, so they all sit on a field outside and they slap a chalkboard against the wall and then the 200 kids are taught by one teacher with a chalkboard outside, and then if it's a rainy day, there's no school. That's kind of like the norm for some of these government schools. So let's say that you go in, you invest in, like, somehow you just fix the education problem, which again is a multifaceted problem. You need like resources, you need good teachers, you need good curriculum, you need curriculum that can speak to the various different dialects, like all throughout the country. Like just in Malawi, there's different dialects. Their language is Chichewa, but then there's different types of Chichewa, and then the language itself is very limiting. So let's say you just fix education. Well, then there's other issues on top of education, which are like the healthcare system is not good. So you have like a lot of babies under 5 that don't make it because malaria is rampant in the country, or HIV/AIDS is rampant in the country. So then, and then on top of that, the government, I have conflicting opinions about government intervention, but one of the things about our government in America is that we're pretty, as far as like private property rights go, we're pretty good on that. And if we, like right now, I've got my phone next to me. If I call 911, I will summon armed men to come and like rescue me from a situation, wherever I am in the entire country. And there, it's like if someone steals from you, it's not like you can just call 911. It's not like you can have like the ambulance show up at your hut. That doesn't happen. So there's all these compounding things that have to work together. But that said, so that's kind of like the bad news is like it's a mess, right? In a lot of these places, it's a huge mess. The good news is that there are like pretty reliable ways to see development. So, like providing education or helping, like formula milk is like one of those things that just is really, really a good thing to provide. And the way that you do it is very important, but that's a good thing. Providing mosquito nets is also like a really good way to do it. So there's a lot of these like small interventions that you can do that lead to sustainable development. And I think that's one of the things that like attracted me to like being in Malawi and seeing how you can have this like long-term impact. But yeah, it's quite messy, and that's one of the things I hope to do with DonorSee is inspire a lot of people to get involved, because that's what's required to resolve a lot of these situations.
Yeah, and I remember a few cases that I came across on DonorSee where it's like, a baby's mother has died, therefore he or she they're unable to breastfeed and they need formula, and it's like this is enough to pay for formula for a month or two.
Yeah,
and then you start thinking, well, man, what happens after? After that month or two? Is there Is there like a foster care system there, or the orphanages?
Yeah. So, well, it depends on like everything is. This is one of the things one of the things that's like I think unique about our model that I probably should talk about more. But one of the things we're really passionate about is like being the projects being locally sourced. Like it's every context, like every village in Africa is different. Every country in Africa has its own unique like idiosyncrasies. So it's very important that there are people who understand those differences and understand like the cultural context, and they're the ones who are best able to like suggest and present the projects that are needed. Because you and me just sitting like in our air conditioned houses or my office here in Fairfax, Virginia, we're just so removed from these situations. But having people on the ground, they're the ones who can know how to make these like long-term things. So like, for example, the babies, there's like one of our partners, it was Tanzania where we were funding a lot of formula milk projects. And so the baby has formula milk, and then 6 months later, the baby, is healthy. The baby doesn't die, but then what do you do with that baby?
Right.
What our partner in Tanzania did was she paired that baby up with like a caretaker. So often the mother's not there, but you would find someone else, like an aunt or a grandmother, to take care of the baby, and then you would provide that caretaker with some kind of income stream. So that would be usually like a fruit stand, or you'd be shocked. It's like $250 to provide someone with a fruit stand, and that provides them with ongoing, recurring, an income stream that they can actually grow. And this one particular partner it was like I think 80 or 85% success rate with starting businesses with these moms who were taking care of the babies who had come from formula milk. So that's the thing about these things. Again, it's a mess, but there's a lot of things people can do that actually do have these impacts that touch people's lives.
Yeah, there was a short documentary some years back called Mama Rwanda about, obviously we all know about, the genocide in Rwanda.
Yeah.
And it's the doc focuses on basically the women left behind. So you have women whose husbands, fathers, brothers were murdered. And it's like what do these women do? And they've stepped up and become entrepreneurs and that sort of thing. And and that's something too. Obviously when you see a case of of an orphan that's in need of a formula, you understand what the purpose is. We need to feed this baby. We need to make sure that this baby is fed. But I mean, what I like, the stuff that I've come across on DonorSee is like, hey, we're going to help so-and-so get a scooter, because if they have a scooter, then they're able to make deliveries or get to get to their job, or to go to school and all that. So it's nice when you see something that I'm going to give a little bit, and it opens up so many more possibilities for this person.
One of the things I like to kind of help differentiate for people, because I think sometimes everything, like when you think of charity, everything is like conflated. So I always like trying to talk to people about the difference between relief and development. So relief is like there's a disaster and a really tragic situation has happened, and people just need help to get through that disaster, right? Like there's been flooding, your house is underwater, and you need you don't want to get sick from cholera, so we need to provide people with like disaster relief kits, and that's relief. And then development is like, let's help someone start a business, let's help someone get educated, let's do something that has like this one-time effect that has these ongoing consequences. So in general, people who are in a really vulnerable category, so like orphans or widows or disaster victims or people who suffer from mental illness, those are the people that society should just take care of them. Those are people in the relief category. And then people who can work and who have can get an education or can work or can start a business, those people are in the development category, and you don't want to incentivize them to rely on handouts. You want to do what you can to give them a hand up. And so I always try and help people understand the difference between the two of them, because they're both really important. But it's just the occasion in which you apply them is also important. Yeah.
How have things been in Malawi over the past couple of years with COVID?
Really bad, I'm sad to say. In fact, I just saw an article in the Wall Street Journal this morning. Someone was doing a report on Kenya, and they were kind of admitting, this is something I talked about as early as May of 2020, that they locked down people pretty hard in Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania and several other countries in Africa, and that had a very, very devastating impact on these communities. And right now, I think like it's like becoming undeniable, like how devastating the effects of so the people that they lock down are people who, if they're living on 30 cents a day, they're people who are living hand to mouth. Like they are able to get just enough work to feed their families, like on a daily basis. And if you lock them down, you tell them like, you got to stay, you can't go anywhere, you can't work, you can't come into the city, you really screw those people over. And I know like I know a lot of people have been affected by COVID, but the lockdowns were not helpful in these countries where people are in these like less developed countries. So yeah, I mean, I went to Malawi a few months ago, and it was tough to sit across. Like there are people who I knew, back from my time then, that I sat across the table from them, and I just I knew that it had been hard on them, but I was sitting across the table from them, and I was looking into their eyes, and I could just feel it. There was like a weight there. It was very tough. So yeah, not great. Sorry to drop that on your comedy podcast, but it was not good.
Gret, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's interesting now. We're talking about developing countries, and then my wife.
That's right.
Completely. Apologies, everyone. I'm not going to keep the whole silence in there. So if anyone's wondering where we left and where we bounced to.
Yeah.
Oh boy, there we go.
Hey.
And Gret was okay. We're back.
I'm wondering if it recorded on my end. I don't know if that is the case.
I don't know. I'm not sure. It says that it's still recording. So
yeah. So you might still have maintained my.
I hope
even
so.
If you disappeared. So we'll see.
It becomes the Gret show.
Let's take over your podcast.
But yeah, so you were saying, so you have people, living hand to mouth, and if you're denying them the ability to earn anything,
yeah,
obviously gonna have terrible.
Screw them over. Yeah, I mean, so anyways, I went to Malawi. I sat across from people who had a very difficult. Malawi didn't lock down super hard in some ways that they did, like they closed down the schools and stuff. But yeah, I mean, but nonetheless, like the effects of there's this expression, when the elephants play, the ants get stepped on. And so I think the concept is, we're over here in the developed world messing with the supply chain and causing all sorts of different amounts of what feels like minor chaos over here, but the effects in other parts of the world can be quite massive. And so, especially in the developed world, people have had a tough couple of years. And I think a lot of people in the developing world had a tough couple of years. And I think a lot of people in the developed world have no real concept of what has happened, what's like transpired over these last 2 years.
Yeah, over the past 2 years, I mean, I could think of not even a handful of journalists or public intellectuals or pundits who had talked about it. The only person that comes to mind is Brendan O'Neill from Spike magazine, and this is probably from over a year ago. He was saying we really need to to be thinking about what's happening to the people in the developing world, because people are way too into the idea of locking down in your studio apartment where you get to order Uber Eats and you have your Wi-Fi and you have your Netflix and you're all set up, where there really are people that are going to be suffering. And a similar thing happens too, and I think when it comes to environmentalism, this idea where sort of the people of Malawi living in mud huts are sort of held up as, that's the way you want to live because you're not burning any, your carbon footprint is so small. And it's like, no, I want those people to be able to live or have a choice to live the way that I live, like to let them decide.
It's just a detached, like I said, it's hard. And I don't blame people really, because I spent 3 years living in Malawi. So it's like, I feel like I get it.
Yeah.
But other people haven't had that experience. Like a lot of people just kind of like live in, I almost call it the America like pillow world. Like everything is so safe and like you're just comfortable. Like I know that there's issues in America, but from like a relative perspective, it's like the access to opportunity here and the amount of like social safety nets, just there's a lot here that people take for granted. It's just like the water that they swim in. And it's hard to relate to how a lot of the rest of the world lives. It's weird. I
had a recent scare with my youngest, who's 9 weeks old, and there's just there's sickness going around. And it's not just Omicron. There's sickness, all over the place. And our family came down with RSV, which is
I heard that's bad.
It's a respiratory virus. It sucks. For me and for my wife, it sucked. For me, it sucked. And then as you get younger and younger, it becomes less sucky and more just dangerous. So our oldest son is almost 2. He had it, terrible cough. And his pediatrician, thankfully was saying, you just have to monitor him, and here's some stuff he should take. And she said, look, you're all going to get it. That's just how it is. It's a thing where you're just going to get it. So then we are monitoring our 9-week-old to see when is he going to get it. And it was New Year's Eve. He had a fever. He was having. That's
terrifying, man. I know how terrifying that is.
And I don't mean to do this to you, because I know you have a new one on the way. But there is something that happens where you being a dad, the horrible cry of a baby. There's something so primal that it hurts to hear it.
Yeah.
And now take that away from the baby and it's wheezing. So that cry isn't even there. So that's we're dealing with. And we brought our son to the emergency room. They released him that night, brought his fever down, and then a day or 2 later, back in the emergency room. And he was there for I think 4 nights and 5 days with my wife. Just them isolated in their room in the hospital. So I was like, for the first time with my eldest, just by myself here. And thankfully, the little guy's been released, and he's on antibiotics and monitoring it. But just the idea of not having that as a, not being able to do that, not being able to rely on, you can get in your car and you could drive to the emergency room where professionals will look after you and give you the best that they have to offer in our modern times. And to think that people are subsisting, and don't have that, it's really tough.
It's very tough. And it affects kids the most. It's kids under 5 who take the brunt of a lot of this stuff. And I mean, I completely get it. We have my brother-in-law just had twins, not just, but like 5 months ago had twins, but they were born 2 months premature. They were in the NICU for a month, and then the mother was in the hospital for a month before that because she had preeclampsia.
What is that? What is preeclampsia?
It's something that happens to pregnant women that's not good, and you have to hospitalize for and usually your baby's born premature. That's my professional medical explanation. And but I mean, I know a guy in Malawi who had twins that were born early and they didn't make it, and there was no like infrastructure for them. There was no infrastructure for the twins, so it was just like they were born premature. There was not like a respiratory unit or anything like that. The twins just kind of came out, and over the course of 24 hours, they both didn't make it. Just terribly sad. So that's kind of the world that we live in right now. It's I think, this is why I'm passionate about what we're doing at DonorSee. I think that there's a cool opportunity to bring a lot of the opportunity and access that we have here in America. I think it'd be great for people all over the world to feel that same amount of access. So
yeah. And I'm wondering, if there are people, just innovators out there that are going to make like an incubator that costs $5
that's what we need. So right now we have the brightest minds in the world working on and I'm not saying there's no critique here, but some of the brightest people in the world are working on like social media algorithms,
TikTok,
and things like that.
We're getting the TikTok going.
We really need a place where we need some of these people working on the bottom billion people, like there's a huge opportunity to help those people, and we need some of the smartest people in the world working on that stuff. So
well, as we established earlier on, I am much older than you. So
more mature.
I'm definitely not more mature. I have a thicker beard, but that's about all the maturity I have on you. Right. So I was born in 82. My brothers were born in 83. And so my 2 youngest brothers are twins, and they were both, I don't know, I forget how premature they were, but they were both, I mean, they're twins anyway, so they're going to be tiny. So they're tiny, and they both had to be held at the hospital. And then I'm told that one of them was released early. I think it was my brother Matt. So they bring home the new one, and I see him, and I guess I'm okay with him, right? And then a few days later, they come with another one, and my mom says that I took one look at the new one and just almost, like scoffed at it, like give me a break, another one, and then I just sort of like, just sort of went away. But even that, I mean, back in 1983 in the U.S.,
things have changed quite a bit.
Well, Gret, why don't you plug away at DonorSee and tell everyone where they could find your stuff. And let me just say, this is I've been a fan of Gret ever since I came across DonorSee. This is actually the first time that we're talking at length.
It's true.
And I just, you could see the good works that you're doing, and if anybody out there is like, hey, you know what, I want to actually make a difference, even if it's this quote unquote small difference in the world, it really just pays, just so many dividends.
Yeah, and well, just to touch on that, it feels small to us, but it's a big difference to the people that it's affecting. So, Lou disappeared.
Come on, man. Gret,
you're there.
please tell me, how can people find you before we get kicked off again?
Yeah, just everyone should check out DonorSee.com. And there's lots of resources on there. If you go to our About page, you can find a 12-minute documentary about how we were founded. So people should check that out. And then pick out a project, make a donation. It feels like small to you. Giving $20 or $50 to you feels small, but it's a huge difference in someone's life, and you'll get to see that when you donate. So go ahead and do that.
Awesome. And I think that, Gret, you might have to set up a DonorSee for me so I can get better Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we'll get you set up with one of those projects.
So
you can hold a thank you video for thanking people.
Exactly. I'll show you guys my progress with my Wi-Fi. Gret, thank you so much for taking the time. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. And, like I said before, I'm a huge fan of the work that you do, and thank you for doing it.
Yeah, thank you, Lou.
Thank you so much for watching and or listening to my podcast. If you'd like to support my work, please head over to thelouperez.locals.com and join the Lou Perez community. And another way to support me is by supporting my sponsors. Black Organic Cold Brew. Head over to www.blvckbrew.com. Use promo code LOU for free shipping. And if you're into CBD products, please check out palomaverdecbd.com. Use promo code LOU for 25% off purchases over $75. All right. Bye.